So what I'm proposing is a general treaty agreement made individually and collectively between the United States, Russia, China, and India, and other countries, with emphasis upon our major targets, economic targets, are Asia and Africa. Russia is a Eurasian nation whose territory and skills are crucial for the development of the mineral resources of Northern Asia. Mineral resources which China would know, but China wouldn't be able to develop. China does not have the technology and knowledge and experience to do that. Russians do. They know how to operate in a tundra area, and a lot of this is in a tundra area. But we need those raw materials developments in order to develop China and other countries. So therefore we have a treaty agreement. Now, China also now recognizes that it's benefiting from this. We make a treaty agreement with China. And the Russians join into a treaty agreement with China and with India. And also Japan will really come in immediately. Korea will come in immediately. Nations of Southeast Asia will tend to join immediately. They want this. So therefore we now say we're going to make a treaty agreement with a 50 and 100-year duration. Because we know that what we're going to invest in has a 50 to 100-year cycle. Some is 25 years, some less. Now we're going to give these countries credit from the United States for their development in certain projects, certain categories of projects, like mass transportation systems, water development systems, all the things that are necessary to develop a population and build up the capital investment, physical capital investment, to enable that country to have a future. In the meantime, the credit system will allow them to continue to live decently. They have the credit protection against foreclosure, guaranteed by the United States and other nations. And therefore we say, China, you need this. Russia, you need this and you have to do this for these other nations. India, you have to do this. For example, one measure. If we're going to have a war, a general war, it would be a thermonuclear war. So if you want a war, you're going to get a thermonuclear war. So don't worry about it. Because if you're foolish enough to have a war, you're going to have a thermonuclear war. If you don't intend to have a thermonuclear war, what are you going to do with all that plutonium? Well, it has a very useful function. If you free it from this ladder of plutonium, you're going to charge up nuclear, uranium, and thorium reactors. You're going to charge them up all over the planet. You're going to create this system of power which enables you to use technologies of production which don't exist today. Right? The key one, the most important one, the most urgent one is water. Fresh, drinkable water for every people. Extremely important. Power in general is a byproduct of that. We're going to be used for basic infrastructure. So look at the map of Africa. Take a study, or the helicopter study, of what the African terrain looks like. What do you see? How many roads do you see? How many railroads do you see? Look at the towns. Look at where people live. What are the conditions of life in Africa? They're horrible. Totally undeveloped. What does Africa need? Does it need wise guys coming in there? No, it doesn't need wise guys. It needs transportation systems, especially railway. It needs power systems, especially nuclear. Because we developed there. It needs various systems of infrastructure which are necessary to build up an economy in Africa by the Africans. Get the British out. It will begin to happen immediately. So that's the way so when we come into this kind of treaty agreement, a credit system, we extend it globally. Credit for Africa. Africa, we agree that Africa requires a mass transportation system, a railway magnetic levitation. We agree they require water systems with the aid of nuclear power. We agree that they require this. Okay, we as a group of nations are going to extend credit to them to assist them in supplying themselves with these kinds of systems. If we give them the infrastructure and access to technology, they will do the rest for themselves. And it's better they do it for themselves, because then it's theirs. And we want the private section of the economies of nations to be theirs, not ours. So we can make credit agreements with them. Again, 50 years, 100 years. We give this planet 100 years to work its way out of the current mess. We emphasize scientific progress, technology, high energy flux density, these kinds of things. These are all things we can do. These are things we were on the verge of doing in the 1960s, before we shut down the space program. We were getting, in the early 1970s, we were getting a 10-cent return on every penny we spent on the space program. That is, the technologies we were getting from investment in the space program were giving us a payback in technologies which are worth 10 cents for every cent we invested. If we return to that kind of policy, we have a multiplier of capability. And if we share those technologies with the people in Africa, the people in China, India, and so forth, for their development of their own economy, then we're going to have the kind of nation our great-grandchildren will want to live in. And that will be our mission in living today. It's what we're giving to the future of humanity. And it will work. You abandon selfishness and think in terms of what does your life mean? Are you an animal? And your personal physical pleasure is everything to you? Or do you think of yourself as an immortal being whose life is its significance for the future of humanity? Like the grandfather used to take his grandchild out in the old days and show them what he had participated in building in some great project, like a great dam or some system. And tell his grandson, I built this. I was part of building this. And that was his greatest pride in existence, in producing grandchildren, a generation of grandchildren to whom he could say that, and to inspire them to do likewise after him. And that should be our policy. That's what the meaning of a credit system is. We have to be separate nations, as I've said, because we're different cultures, and because the children have to develop in their culture, their language culture, their traditions. But they have to develop to equality and equivalence of ability. And that should be our mission. Nations working to a common purpose. No more Tower of Babel. That sort of thing. The problem is, as you see, when you think about this, we, as present generations, have come to a time when governments and institutions have lost morality, true morality. When they talk about morality, you laugh with a sick laugh. These guys are talking about morality? The president is talking about morality when he's doing what he's doing right now since he went to London? That's not morality. Morality is the relationship of human beings to the future of the human race through the medium of their nation and cooperation among such nations. And that's the principle involved here. Nothing else is really that important.